I've always been a fan of international league. The fact that this state of origin, what is the meaning of it? Why so many people on this side hasn't given monkeys about Queensland and New South Wales? With them having such a poor season last season, there's a certain element of a lot of us want to see them bounce back so that we can hate them properly. Last year were brilliant. This year, really struggling. I think the Hurricanes are the same. So I don't know whether it's the fact that we've got Torifano as the mayor, or whether it's something to do with the water system.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Always ahead of the weekend. Good old China. Miles joins us out of Wellington. Canes playing Tars tonight, mate. That's a biggie. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the All Whites as well. We'll talk about your old mate Blatter, hey? As you said, a Tui billboard. He's innocent, as always. And also great news today. The Ashes, England, Oz and Rugby League, October, November, a 3-match series. So why don't we start there, eh? Because I thought that news is just for everyone who loves your international league. And you grew up watching those games, didn't you?
Very much so. I mean, I'm rapt that it's actually happening. I won't be so rapt at the end when England on the back end of a 50-point pounding. But it brings back so many great memories. And for me, I've always been a fan of international league. The fact that this state of origin, and everyone it's great, spectacle in terms of the fact you've got the top players playing. But what is the meaning of it? Why so many people on this side hasn't given monkeys about Queensland and New South Wales? Really? It's quite artificial as far as that goes. But at least nation against nation, you can get a whole lot of people behind it with the legitimacy. And I remember I went to the new Sydney Football Stadium, 1988. This is how long ago it was, when it had just been built, and they had the centenary test between Great Britain and Australia at the stadium. It was a fantastic occasion. I think something like 18-6, 18-12 that the Great Britain lost. I think Andy Gregory from memory. You remember the little nuggety scrub? Yeah. He scored. But the funniest bit at the end of it, there's a big section of us, all the Pommy fans. And at the end of the game, we were still there, sort of singing the odd song and that. And then we ended up standing on the seats. And the old Bill were all sort of down the front, giving it that. And then after a while, they got a bit sick of it. And we got sick of them. So we all turned around and dropped our stride to give a 50 brown eye salute to the old Bill. They got the truncheons out, mate, and we were chased out of the ground. But yeah, back to the league, just brilliant. I mean, I love international rugby league. I was down in Addington as well when Gary Freeman came off the bench and scored a couple of tries to make it through to the World Cup final. And it's what it's all about. And I just hope that the Poms put up a decent fight for it, because if they come over and they get toasted, it's just a total waste of time. So
would you rather that they played Great Britain again, or do you like to isolate England and play England as opposed to...
I'd much rather. I mean, what a Great Britain. They give Brian Carney or something. I don't even know. Tate, I think, played once for England, Great Britain at fullback. They don't really add much, do they? Having them in there. Why just have England? I'd rather have England than the rest of them. That's not to say that, I haven't got friends who are actually Welsh or Irish or Scots. Not many. I've got a few of them. But yeah, I if it added a lot more depth, then fair enough.
I was going to also ask you every week to have a little think about this. So we'll actually
just double.
Sorry, you dropped out. Well, I was going to ask you every week as well, and we'll do this at the very end. I'll ask you the last questions. Every week I want you to take us to one part of the country where you went to a game and that experience. And I thought you could talk about Liverpool today, going up to Liverpool with West Ham. Let's talk about...
I've got a good story for that. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, let's talk about this Canes match tonight against the Tars then. I can't get a read on where the Hurricanes are at. We just haven't been great all season. I know we've got a pile of injuries and everything else, but that game against the Highlanders seems like weeks ago now. And I wouldn't be surprised, I hate to say it, that the Tars actually come in and tip us up with the way that we have been playing in the injuries.
Yeah, firstly, I'm getting the lawyers involved because,
here we go.
Again, you've said we.
Yeah, I've ditched the Blues.
You're a Blues
I've ditched the Blues. No, I've ditched the Blues, mate. They're gone.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Looking at the table, you do. I expect the Waratahs to go close, if not to win the thing, because the Hurricanes are up and down. I heard some news this morning that Billy Proctor's still 4 to 6 weeks away. Losing Aldi Salvia, I think, was a massive blow, and you've seen the form that he's had there for Moana Pacifica. So, I mean, he's a massive loss. But I just think that they've lost direction. I mentioned this a while ago. They remind me a bit of the Phoenix. Last year were brilliant, and this year really struggling. And I think the Hurricanes are the same. So I don't know whether it's the fact that we've got Torifano as the mayor, or whether it's something to do with the water system. I was going to say something in the water, but you can hardly get water down here. The pipes always burst. So, but there's definitely something wrong there at the moment. And I mean, I'll watch every game. I'll support them every game. But to be honest, that sort of last vestige of hope is beginning to leave me.
Well, we're both Crusaders fans, aren't we?
Oh, mate, after last week, and didn't they do a great job for us as well, which I enjoyed. And I mean, the reason that so many of us despise Canterbury and the Crusaders is because they're so good and they're so successful.
Yes.
And I think I remember after I used to call them, I still call them now, the Village of the Dam, Christchurch. And after the earthquakes, I thought, I shouldn't really be calling that. So I stopped doing it for a couple of years. And then when I was on the radio, people would ring me up and say, Miles, what's this? Why have you gone all soft? You're not calling us this anymore. So I reintroduced it because the Cantabrians insisted we go back to that sort of enmity. And it's the same with the Jocks. If they are true Cantabrians or they're true Scots, whatever, they want you to give them a stick.
They love it. They love the stick, mate.
Exactly. Just like I love it. I mean, it's what it's all about. And I think that with them having such a poor season last season, there's a certain element of a lot of us want to see them bounce back so that we can hate them properly. It's like Leeds. It's like Leeds. When Leeds ages down there, in the end it got a bit. I quite enjoyed them losing in the playoffs, but to have them back up 40 years after you first started really hating them was quite good, because at least there was something worthy of hate. Now they're just worthy of pity.
And since we're talking Cantabs, of course, Alex Wiley sadly lost on the weekend, and both you and me have bored him on a number of occasions, mate.
Yeah, very much so. And I had a lot of time for Grizz. I mean, he really was. Like on the field, as a coach, he was an uncompromising character, a real classic, old school, gnarly, forward. But it was great company. I had him on the show a couple of times for a couple of hours in a pub, which is a great environment. Him, Tiny Norton, Fergie McCormack, Bill Bush. You imagine that. And the stories that you hear, which are so much better than the ones that if you're allowed to hear them anymore today. And then he ended up playing bowls. And I did bowls 3-5 for Sky, and he was in one of the teams. And the thing I always remember about him was that they were having a measure on one of the ends, and it was really tight and that, and it was like one shot or two shots against him, and he got grumpy and he just went up and he picked the bowl up and said one shot and just walked down the other end.
Brilliant.
Didn't wait for the umpire to measure the whole thing properly and adjudicate. He just grabbed it and stormed off. Who's going to argue with him?
No, rest in peace.
But greatly missed, and a great character, and lucky to spend a bit of time with him.
All right, league this weekend, and St George are 0-2. So let's dial up the best fixture you could possibly wish for. Melbourne.
I think away to the Storm be quite a good one. I think it might be home actually, but anyway, the Storm, again, they beat the Panthers last week. They played the Panthers last week, and beat them. Although the Panthers, as I think they did last year as well, had a bit of a stuttery sort of start. We have got 2 points from the bye, so there's hope. You look at the table, you think, we got 2 points. I don't remember seeing that win. It's when you don't play. If we could have 20 odd buys, I think we'd do quite well. Again, it's like we were bloody unlucky in the last game. It was like, to go down with a by 1 point in a game of league is pretty tough. It's tough to take, but you've got to take it. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. Throughout a season, you're going to be confronted with games like that, and you've got to somehow get over the top. We're talking about the Warriors. You were quite.
I gave it to them after the first game. They deserved it after the first game.
They did. But I mean, what sort of form were you in when you were in Vegas? You and Mike King and those. You weren't exactly. Let's
not at the top of our game, were we?
Picking for next week's team. I they've just really bounced back, and it's been great to watch. Great to watch. It's a pity they've lost Dylan Walker. I don't know what the circumstances are behind it, but the Warriors have got a tradition of doing that, of not standing in players' ways, of being quite accommodating as far as that goes. And I've got to say, I quite like that. There'll be people who say, let's be hard on him. This is business. He signed a contract, keep him to it. But I mean, what's the point of keeping?
Well,
a guy
if he doesn't
there
want to
that
stay, he's not going to play, is he? I mean, that's
exactly.
the whole deal.
And even if he does, the fact that he's worrying all the time, and you stop him from whatever the issue is, and you've got to take him at their word that it's a personal issue and a family issue. So that we'll miss him, but good on the Warriors for doing the sort of pragmatic and compassionate thing.
All right, and this is going to be a regular part of our chats every week, where for those who don't know, Miles, of course, has been a West Ham fan his whole life, and that whole period of the 70s and 80s before you came to New Zealand in 85, you just got to look it up. Look it up on YouTube. There was a time of life where you took your life into your own hands, literally, when you went to a lot of these grounds, and you had to mob up, as you said, because otherwise you had protection in numbers. I mean, it was pretty lawless out there. So Liverpool, you went up to Liverpool a number of times. Give us one of those.
Yeah, no, I've got a great story from there, but quickly though, October the 21st, 1975, when we battered you a lot and put 121 of you in hospital. But anyway, we'll
get to
story.
that. We'll get to that at some time.
It's terrible, isn't it? Even at my age now, I get quite a bit of enjoyment.
Well, I keep watching that on YouTube.
People getting arrested.
All the old guys with their umbrellas giving us some.
They came out of South Bank. They tried to get into the chicken run, and the old guys would go, get out and whacking them and getting rid of them. Anyway, we go out to Liverpool. And we lost 3-0. And when we're coming out of the ground, it kicks off. Now, I've never gone out and started a fight up there in football, ever. But if you're there and you're getting attacked, you've got to sort of lash out or defend yourself or help your mates out or whatever it might be. Anyway, I ended up getting nicked. And
that's not the first time, ladies and gentlemen, all right? Okay?
I got bailed, but they said, you've got to come back up to be in front of the magistrates. So it was a couple of weeks later, I had to go back up, take a day off work, go back up there for this hearing. Anyway, I get up there and they got 3 magistrates sitting there, and the chairman of the bench on the magistrates, I was working for Rotary International, the Rotary clubs in London. He was the president of Rotary International.
The old secret handshake comes out, does it?
Sitting on the bench. Anyway, I think I got a 50 quid fine or something, and some sort of binding order. But afterwards, we came out. He saw me, and he said, if I could have given you the death sentence, he said, I would have done. He said, but also, him and I had this regular, every time West Ham played Liverpool, £5 bet. And he asked me for the 5 quid. I've gone out there, he's fined me, and then he takes the 5 quid off of me. That's a day I won't ever forget. The 3-0, though, that was the most painful bit.
DSPN.